Look, we heard about this. We've spoken about it a couple of times today in the program. It's National Flag Day, and it's an issue which I think is something we should talk about every year. Of course, from a debate point of view, recently there's been this question about whether we should be allowing people to burn the Australian flag without penalty. If it's your flag and you want to burn it, theoretically you're allowed to, although not during a bushfire season. That's basically the only rule. And they've got the same kind of approach in America and the UK as we have here, but plenty of other countries around the world have got some pretty substantial rules about this. Sachin Tendulkar cut a cake with the Indian flag on it years ago, and he had to go and apologise to the whole people of India because he dared to put a knife through the cake with the flag on top. All this has come as a result of some dreadful person who obviously hates us so much that, for effect, they set fire to an Australian national flag at a pro-Palestinian, or is it pro-Hamas march in Melbourne last month. Yeah, Melbourne, yet again. The place to flee, Victoria. Now, I know, as far as I know, the member for Herbert, Phil Thompson, an ADF veteran, has launched a similar kind of private members bill to what One Nation have done. Now, One Nation have launched a petition calling on the Senate to make it an offence to willfully burn or desecrate the Australian flag. 50,000 signatures are on that petition. That is substantial. Queensland One Nation Senator Malcolm Roberts is joining me now from the Canberra studio. Happy Flag Day to you, Senator. The importance of the Australian flag, have you got your own passion about it?
Yes, for me, the word spirit summarises it. There's a spirit in every entity, whether it be a football club, a country, a business, there's a spirit, and that spirit determines whether or not the organisation is united, so it affects unity, cohesion, belief. It magnifies the energy, it motivates people, it supports people. It's something that people can rally around. It's the spirit of the country, and the flag embodies that spirit. The flag makes it tangible. We can feel the spirit, but we can't see that spirit of being Australian.
I saw that March for Australia on Sunday. I saw it in Brisbane. There were just hundreds and hundreds, thousands, really, Australian flags saying, somebody wanted to burn the flag. They really want to burn us. That's what I think anyway.
Exactly. In your introduction, that's exactly what I was thinking, Gary. When they burn the flag, they burn the spirit of Australia. They burn every Australian. They burn Australians. That's what they're doing. They're burning our country.
It's awful, isn't it? This petition, it's been huge success, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. And there's a very strong feeling around the country right now. We can see it. Australia is dying. That's what happened with a lot of people. And on Sunday, they were saying Australia is on the decline. We need to restore Australia, and that's why the flags were there. No one organised the flags to be there. They were spontaneous, and it was absolutely beautiful. But the feeling was so much more powerful, just the feeling of being Australian, marching at the head of the parade in Canberra with Pauline and Senator Tyrone Whitten from Western Australia, another One Nation senator. So all of us were there. I think we're the only politicians to take part in the flag, in the March for Australia on Sunday anywhere. But it was so important. But what I'm getting to is the feeling, the spirit of Australia comes alive then.
Yeah, and so you've gone to the march in Canberra, not here in Brisbane. The Brisbane march was enormous. I've seen a lot of these things. I didn't march because I felt it was not my place to, but I just watched humanity. It was like going to a football grand final. That's how it felt to me.
Yes, I had to do it in Canberra because I wanted to take part in it, very important symbolically, but also the experience itself because of the feeling. When you're being swamped by so many people in Canberra, Canberra's not exactly our territory, so that signifies it. But my wife took part in Brisbane, so I had to take part in Canberra because I had to fly down here before the march and be ready for the Senate next day. But my wife took part in Brisbane and she loved it. She's a dual citizen, American and Australian, and she absolutely loved it. She's very passionate about Australia now. She's been here for 33 years, something like that, and 35 years. And so she said the feeling was marvellous, absolutely marvellous, and very peaceful. People weren't out to disrupt. They were simply saying, we're losing our country. We want it back. We should be a country of abundance, not scarcity. We want to tap into that spirit of Australia, the raw materials of Australia. We're blessed, Gary, per person. We've got more resources than any other country in the world, but we're not using it. We're squandering it. And Canberra is driving this country into the ground. So what we've got to do is get people awake and alive and start taking part in rebuilding and restoring Australia.
The thing that concerns me, Malcolm Roberts, most of all, is this deliberate dividing of Australians. What we heard in the Senate today, and I know you've just come straight off the Senate floor, and we really appreciate you joining us from the Parliament House studio, but the rubbish we heard in the Senate today, your colleague, Senator Nampijinpa Price, look, I'm going to replay it because this is what happened to her, and the Greens hated what she did today.
A rally where some protesters chanted genocidal slogans, displayed Hamas symbols and Nazi swastikas, waved flags of terrorist organisations and carried a photograph.
Senator Nampijinpa Price, could you please resume your seat? Senator McKim on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, President. I ask for a ruling, please, on whether the senator who's wrapped in the national flag at the moment is contravening the standing order that prevents props. And I do want to make the point that if it's okay for Senator Nampijinpa Price to wrap herself in this flag, I would intend to wrap myself in a Palestinian flag and come into the chamber and exercise the same rights that Senator Nampijinpa Price is currently exercising.
Malcolm Roberts, I'm embarrassed for Nick McKim to say he'd wrap himself in the flag of another country to make a political point. Senator Nampijinpa Price, whether she should have wrapped herself in the Australian flag, it was National Flag Day. She was laying it out there, and essentially the flag's now been banned. The acting deputy president said, I'm not sure, don't know which way to go. No, take it off. Wow, I've never seen anything like this.
There are two things to remember about the Greens. Actually, three things. They hate Australia, they love foreign countries, and they tell lies. End of story.
I think it's really sad. It's more of this division. You got support from other parties, though. Surely people are saying, good on you for running this petition. I know Phil Thompson in Townsville, he's pretty fired up about it, looking at private members' bill. Henry Pike in Bowman, he's wanting to gazette Australia Day. These are good things. This is about national unity, these sorts of measures.
Exactly. It goes back to my opening comments. Spirit, unity, cohesion, belief, and these are magnified, and they magnify the energy when you have that flag on display. People are proud of being Australian. I can remember marching on Sunday. I thought, I'm not so proud of being Australian anymore, but on Sunday I was very proud because we had everyday Australians, no bloody politicians, apart from Pauline and myself and Tyrone, and just everyday Australians, real Aussies, united and saying, let's go Australia. I started my speech with Aussie, Aussie, oi, oi, oi was the response. And it was electric. It was just fantastic.
So, Malcolm Roberts, what about this other news today? We've got a couple of former premiers, the Victorian former premier Dan Andrews and Bob Carr. Both these blokes, I don't get this pandering. We don't have to upset the Chinese, don't get me wrong. I don't want to do that. But going along to a parade, a military might being displayed, some saying it's the biggest military parade ever in Chinese history, in Tiananmen Square, where back in the late 80s we were rightly upset about people trying to liberate China a bit from communist rule, getting run over by tanks. There's a whole lot of bad look about this. They've gone there, and they're standing with despots, dictators, Putin, with Kim Jong-un, with Xi Jinping. What is going on with these people?
The Labor Party is no longer the Labor Party. The modern Labor Party is an amalgamation of Greens pulling them to the far left. And the Labor Party used to stand up for workers. Now it's abandoning workers. Net zero, mass immigration. That's record levels. John Howard sadly introduced mass immigration to this country, but it's been built on ever since. And Albanese's taken it to a new height. They're basically communists. Dan Andrews is a communist. We saw his policies and control. They were all about control. They were the worst of any state premier during COVID. Andrews looked at home with Xi Jinping and some of the other dictators there.
Yeah, and now his successor, Jacinta Allen, is looking at bringing a handful of other Labor MPs for a visit to China. All of this is dreadful. And then the other bit of news today, a group of Australian-born ISIS brides, children and young men being repatriated from Syria. This, to my mind, again, is just sending really bizarre signals. We just had hundreds of thousands of people protesting around the country in all these different parades, hundreds of thousands, and about migration, mass migration, no one picking on a race, and the Prime Minister's finding new ways to bring other people into the country.
Gary, we now have new arrivals in this country in the streets. They've been kicked out of their homes for the later new arrivals. So what I want to know is, How much money is the government paying to get these people airfares home? How much accommodation will they give them? Will they supply a house? Will they boot an Australian out of a house? These are the issues that need to be prioritised. This country, under Labor, and sadly under some of the Liberal policies as well, is no longer being run for Australians. It's being run for looking good on the global stage, pushing the global agenda. That's abundantly clear. And Albanese is destroying this country. When we have mass immigration, you have inflation and all the other, and then the lack of infrastructure, the lack of housing. We have got people in every provincial city in this state of ours, from Cairns through to Coolangatta, every city in between, with homeless people. We've got lack of infrastructure. But then the second thing is the quality of the people coming in there. I'm a migrant. I'm a migrant. Yeah, I was born in India. And we don't have, Pauline and I have nothing against migrants. The country was built on migrants. But the second aspect of mass immigration is the quality. When migrants used to come in, they were vetted, they were screened, they were very much contributing to the country. And when they arrived here, they got straight to work and contributed to the country. Now we've got people getting straight on the welfare and sending medicines home on the PBS. But the third thing is, the cultures that are the tightest are Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, Singapore, China. They're tight because they're very strict on who they let in. They let in people only compatible with their culture. These countries are monoculture. And what we've got now is a multicultural mishmash mess. And what multiculturalism does is it stops and it prevents assimilation and integration. So it's destroying our culture. And that's exactly what these globalists pushing this agenda are doing. They're destroying the culture, making it easier to smash borders, less pride in the country. It's very subtle, but it's there. Yeah,
the thing we don't want is difference being emphasised. Unity is what's important. All of the Commonwealth countries, people who've come from them, have things in common. And anybody who comes, no matter what country they come from, no matter what the religion, they've got to be who they are, but for Australia, Malcolm Roberts.
Exactly. I talked this morning about, last night, I've done so many speeches last night about a study in America across 30,000 Americans, okay? Americans are similar to Australia, but it doesn't matter. 30,000, not a tiny sample. What they found was that where you have diverse population, you have less charity, less community spirit, less cooperation, less care. What it's saying is, you don't bring people from many backgrounds together, and that doesn't create a benefit. You get a deterioration. What you do is you bring people of the one culture in, and then you bring people from other cultures in so that they assimilate, not swamp. Pauline talked about, she's got nothing against Asians. I've got lots of Asians who have contributed to this country, lots of Indians. I'm born in India myself. Lots of people from Africa, all over the world. But you've got to assimilate them. You've got to bring them in a very small number so that they fit into our culture rather than destroy our culture.
Yeah, what brings us together has got to be more important than the things that divide us. Good to talk to you, Senator Malcolm Roberts, Queensland Senator from our Canberra studio.